I will work to build a police department that you can trust as well. Right now, I myself, being the commissioner, do not fully trust our police department. I'm going to fight every day to take whatever issues you have. I will investigate those.
Morris would take to Facebook, criticizing the officer and calling for the precinct's commander to be fired.
We really don't want things to get out of hand when it comes to our police commissioners. We don't want them thinking they're the police. They roll up on crime scenes and want to get actively involved. That's not their job.
This video was one of the most troubling that I've worked on. A Detroit police commissioner whose job is literally police oversight. And the moment he starts engaging in police oversight, all of a sudden he's public enemy number one. The district attorney says it's not his job to roll up and film traffic stops. But this commissioner finds that there's no better way to produce accountability than to see his police officers in action. And Detroit Police Commissioner Darious Morris is very powerful within his position. He can decide if an officer gets suspended, which consequences they receive, and if they do get suspended, he can take their pay. And he finds that the best way to produce accountability is at a community level. Showing up to police departments, filming traffic stops if he sees them on the side of the road, producing results for an underserved community who've been abused for far too long by the very cops that are supposed to serve them. And once the police get wind that he's holding cops accountable, they go after him. Not only do they go after him, they try and have him jailed. Now, Commissioner Darious Morris has exclaimed and proclaimed from the moment that he ran that he had a troubled past and a troubled upbringing. He grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, and he got in trouble from a very early age. But he's cleared his life and turned it around. He produces outreach programs, helping underserved youths find trades and paths to redemption, much like his own story. He started a real estate company to provide good housing to underserved and underafforded communities. And then he saw police violence and what that looked like. And he decided that he was going to use his past and his current knowledge of bad policing to protect the community he serves, but from within and with a badge. So he ran for police commissioner on the slogan of accountability, and he was voted in with over 70% of the popular vote. But once he made his position clear, he became a target. An old criminal case originally thrown out because a police officer was on the Giglio and Brady list. That means this officer was so dishonest, he was put in a federal database reserved for police officers who are so dirty and so corrupt that they can't be used in court proceedings because their word is unreliable. Those charges get dropped. But once Mr. Morris gets into office and starts making some very anti-police changes, all of a sudden they threaten to bring those charges back and to issue that warrant. And despite facing possible jail time, the commissioner does not back down. He does not relent. He digs his feet in the sand and says to the people and for the people, I will fight. Now, there's an interesting component here. He does have a criminal background, very long ago and nothing earth-shattering. And I've met a lot of police officers and covered stories about a lot of police officers who also have criminal backgrounds. Now, when you're a cop and you have a criminal background, that's okay. Here's a badge, here's a gun, patrol the streets. But when you're a police commissioner and you wear a badge, but you hold your own police officers accountable, then all of a sudden having any sort of less than a perfect background is just totally unacceptable. Redemption is a beautiful story within any person, but instead of redemption, they're using this man's past to try and character assassinate him simply to get him out of office so he can't hold bad cops accountable. And this isn't the Detroit Police's first attempt at silencing a commissioner that might want to hold them accountable. This is just a few years ago.
And first at 10, a heated meeting in Detroit ends with the police commissioner in handcuffs.
It didn't take long for tempers to flare in front of a packed and irate crowd.
7 Action News reporter Alan Campbell watched all of this unfold. And Alan, how did this play out?
Well, Glenn, I have to tell you, it was a wild night tonight here at the Police Board of Commissioners meeting. There was a commissioner who was arrested.
For the third time, you're out of order, and I'm going to ask that Commissioner Burton please be removed from the meeting.
Things got heated quick at the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners meeting.
Get your hands off me! Get your hands off me! Don't touch me!
Commissioner Willie Burton taken away in handcuffs after the chair asked him to be removed after she said his time for comment was up.
He just asked her, what is she going to do differently?
What is she going to do differently?
She was elected. She's the immediate past chair. Now she just got elected again.
Chaos then ensued as those in attendance didn't approve of Commissioner Burton's removal. Protesters were wearing masks as a sign to shield their identity. Community advocates say they wanted to have a peaceful protest and get their message out.
We need to ensure that our voice is heard.
You heard that right, and it sounded funny even in slow-mo. This man was assaulted, dragged out of a building, handcuffed in front of a community that cheered for him simply for asking a police department what they planned to do differently among this outcry and outrage over police violence at the time. This is the battle that Police Commissioner Darious Morris faces. And I've had my own problems with the Detroit police. In fact, they're out of control. This is a quick preview of what happened with my last interaction with them about 6 months ago.
Well, what's the problem?
Listen, just...
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Before we go any further, I need to know who am I? You been videotaped too.
Yeah, no worries, man. I love that.
Please
my name.
Can say I did talk to
Yeah,
you.
no problem, sir. First name is, no worries. First name is Good, last name is Citizen.
Your first name Good?
And last name is Citizen, yeah. I don't wish to identify the police unless I've committed a crime. No. So we're going to continue to film. Bro, shut up. I'm talking to my audience. Shut up, bro. You're going to make this worse for yourself. It's not interference or obstruction. If they're messing with the wrong ones, I'm not in the mood for them today. Yeah, interference is a physical act, so they can eat a sandwich and hold the bread.
Sir, I need you to step away from my car, please.
All set. Thank you, though. Public sidewalk. I'm on an easement, man. Stop giving me orders. No. Look at the space that's between us. I'm on curtilage. Filming what I can see in public. Interference or obstruction is a physical act. Sir, first of all, obstruction is a physical act. I'm not obstructing your investigation because you're not dealing with the driver at this moment. You can show me whatever you want, bro. No one is talking to him either. You show me what you want. I can talk to whoever I want. I'm not interfering in your investigation. Huh? I'm talking to my audience. Are you high? Have you had anything to drink before operating that motor vehicle? Now, the cops I were filming were definitely up to something dirty, or else they wouldn't have threatened arrest for me filming a traffic stop from well above 10 feet from their cruiser. Now they have a police commissioner that's doing the exact same thing, and they won't stop at anything to try and arrest this guy. In fact, just a couple years ago, he was again filming a traffic stop to make sure that the person being detained had their rights respected. The police officer tried assaulting him, and then Commissioner Morris, at the time a regular citizen, said, "If you had assaulted me, then I would have shot you." Now, they criminally charged him, but we all know that a situational comment or phrase is not a crime. For example, if you would have broken the law and assaulted me, I would have defended myself. Commissioner Morris isn't saying that I will shoot you. He's saying, had you violated my rights, had you put me in fear, had you assaulted me, my retort would have been to defend myself. This guy is doing exactly what he should and exactly what every other police commissioner and oversight board across the country should be doing. He's monitoring police from a ground level. And I have some excellent news for you. After a long discussion after my interview with Commissioner Morris that you're going to see next,
We've decided to work together. I'm going to be going to Detroit. I'm going to be doing a ride along with this police commissioner. This police commissioner is going to cop watch together with me. And together, at a ground level, we are going to film police officers to make sure they uphold citizens' rights. And if they don't, he assures me that he will immediately take a complaint and conduct an investigation. Now that's what I call real, impartial policing. This is a little bit of what the lamestream media had to say. Stay tuned, because as soon as this is over, we're going to go right in to my in-depth interview with Police Commissioner Morris.
And by Friday, Morris told me he was resigning because of the negative reaction from the public to our reporting. But by today, his attorneys at the Not Guilty law firm called a press conference where they were singing a completely different tune.
There's been an outcry from the community, members calling him directly, asking him not to remove himself from office. So that's why he retained our services, and more aptly, we're here to say he's not resigning.
While Morris attended today's press conference, he took no questions. He's come under fire for his dealings with police officers since being elected.
This is very important, and even the lamestream media recognizes that Police Commissioner Morris has come under fire since being elected, and now they have a problem with him because he's rolling up on traffic stops. He's filming police officers within the course of their duties to make sure that they're doing the right thing and to hold them accountable. Now, I'm not a mathematician here, but maybe help me with the formula. If you're a cop and you see the police oversight commissioner show up and you don't want him there, so you try and get him fired, maybe you're doing something that you don't want people to see. Maybe the last thing that you want is oversight. And this is why I love this guy. He's not sitting at a desk, not doing anything. This guy is at a ground level monitoring police behavior.
Body camera footage shows him pulling up to active police scenes like this one from November, questioning officers in the midst of rendering aid.
He's saying he works for the Board of Police.
I don't care who he works for.
I don't care either. Like, you see emergency vehicles.
The following month, Morris filed a complaint against a lieutenant, then called for his commander to be fired on social media.
They might not like his style. He's passionate about the community that he's from, that he was born and raised in, and that he's returned to represent. That's fine.
Today, he's one of 6 new members to Detroit's Board of Police Commissioners, taking office earlier this month.
I do solemnly affirm.
In his role as a commissioner, Morris is responsible for reviewing citizen complaints against officers, voting on police promotions, and deciding whether or not to take the pay of officers when they're accused of misconduct.
Even with the officers that come before me for disciplinary, I can look at the officer and say, listen, we both on the path of redemption. The only thing worse than being a fool is when you realize you was a fool and you do nothing about it.
Morris says he did something about it, maintaining a clean criminal record for the next 12 years. But that changed in 2023.
How are you?
I'm all right.
This is police body cam from a traffic stop conducted by Warren Police. Officers there were pulling over a mini bike that they said wasn't street legal, and they would later learn that its driver did not have a license.
Hands behind your back, please.
It was then that Morris pulled up to the scene. That's him in the red t-shirt. Morris said he wanted to observe the officer and make sure he did everything by the book.
Stand by the vehicle, please. Okay, if you interfere with this stop, understand you are not allowed to. Sir, away from it! Out of the street and away!
As police prepare to tow the mini bike, the scene begins to devolve. Family members of the driver have come to the scene, tempers are flaring, and Morris can be heard yelling.
Hey, you 3 guys are good.
Enough.
This guy's an idiot. You're an idiot.
I'm done. I'm done talking to you.
You're an idiot.
And as the officer is about to get into his vehicle, Morris says this.
Say it again.
If you put your hands
Say it again.
I would have shot you.
You would have shot me.
What they gonna say?
Are you going to try and fight me?
You gonna say
Go ahead. Go ahead. If you want to do it, I will pepper spray you. Get out of here.
I said, if you would have put your hands on him, I would have shot you.
Now, Commissioner Morris shows remorse and tells me that he wished he didn't say that comment because he felt bad for it. That's just the type of guy he is. He's empathetic, he's caring, and he doesn't want to hurt people's feelings, unlike the department that he's assigned to investigate.
No matter what parents you had that was addicted to any drugs. My father went to prison. Everybody was around where people who were crooks, they were engaged in the street. And I want them to see that your past don't define you.
Guys, this is one of those cases where you actually have to see it to believe it. And then when you see it, it's still pretty hard to believe. I've been following this story from the background, and as I get into it, I see one thing is very clear. A police department that would do almost anything to skirt accountability. In my years in activism, almost a decade long, I've seen many police officers with criminal records, and it's accepted. However, if the person who's deciding that you should get suspended with no pay has a criminal record, then all of a sudden it's the blue line calling the pot and the kettle. Welcome with me today, Commissioner Moore of the Detroit Police Department. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
I've been following your story, like I just said, and I mean, it seems like just one of those really great, classic American stories. Tell us a little bit about your background before you became this big kind of Detroit commissioner.
I grew up, of course, I was born and raised in the city of Detroit, um, in the 48205 zip code. It was once known as 48209 die because the area was plagued with gang violence. There were a lot of drug activity. There were a lot of homicides, a lot of robberies, home invasions, things of that nature. So it is the worst. It was at one point in time the worst zip code in the city of Detroit. I'm born and raised in this. I got involved inside the streets, um, dealing with, gangs, people involved in things that they shouldn't have been involved in. So I grew up kind of rough. I took the street route. It landed me inside some trouble at an early age. And so I was able to learn from those bad decisions. And that fueled my new purpose in life. My purpose now as a licensed realtor as well as a builder. I buy homes that are in the same area that are distressed. I renovate those homes and I rent those to low income families who otherwise couldn't afford to be able to rent in other areas. Part of the program that I run is called the D-Trade Build and Trade Program, where I take young African American males who are headed down the road that I was headed down, and I try to catch them at the fork in the road and steer them, down a better path by teaching them building trades, how to renovate homes, and we pay them, while they learn the trades.
That's pretty incredible to come from where you came from and just to make it out. I explain to my audience all the time, the celebration is minus any of my success and where I am today, is that I even made it out to begin with, let alone that you were able to, take your past and use that as a motivator and tools to ultimately build this new foundation for your life is commendable. And now you're helping people, you're providing homes where otherwise people wouldn't be able to get or afford these types of homes. You're giving people meaningful tools and trades so they can kind of ignore that same gang activity that you had to live through. So you're doing all the right things for your community. What point do you decide, I want to take this one step further? I want to be the commissioner for the Detroit Police Department.
Well, I first started looking in the direction of the plea, the role of the Detroit Board of Police Commissioners are oversight, is civilian oversight of the police department. So they are the highest authority of the department, but they aren't sworn police officers. They're actually civilians who actually live inside the communities in which the officers patrol. So, we're broken into 7 different districts. The area I'm in is District 3. I'm on the east side of Detroit. In 2010, there was a young girl named Ayanna Jones. Ayanna Jones was sleeping in her home where she was supposed to be on the couch. She was there with her grandmother. They had stayed up and watched movies and TV all night. She was a grandma's girl. Her father was wanted on a warrant. The Detroit Police Department executed a warrant at that location in which Ayanna Jones and her grandmother were at. As they were executing this warrant, they were filming for a reality show called The First 48. So, in an effort to make the show more exciting, they added a lot of different things to it, like just flash bombs, and there was a lot of chauvinism, in my opinion. So DPD made their entry into the house. Ayanna Jones was shot by a police officer who came through the door as she was sleeping on her couch. The bullet actually entered into through her head, and it came out her neck. The officer, who supposed to have control over his weapon, who was a veteran, had been on there for a while. He had been doing this multiple times, and he was responsible for maintaining control of the weapon. The house was dark. There was a flash bomb that went off inside the house. I don't know what was inside his head, but whatever it was, she lost her life as a result of his negligence. The officer's excuse was that the grandmother had jumped up and grabbed this weapon and tried to force him out of the house. However, it was exposed in trial that the grandmother's fingerprints weren't nowhere on the gun. And beyond that, even if he's supposed to still be trained to maintain control of the weapon, the fact that you're in there, and even if she was able to push it as he said she did, um, your finger, I wonder, where is it at? Is it inside the trigger wells or on the outside? So it was very questionable. It was very suspicious, and so that made me start to look into, when I seen that the judge, he was charged. The prosecution took him to trial. The first trial resulted in a hung jury. The second trial, in the midst of it, the judge declared it mistrial, tossed it, and the judge retired sometime after that. So Ayanna Jones never got justice. So I started to look into the behavior of the Detroit Police Department with the officer who was involved in that, by just looking at his track record, his background, his record of misconduct. And I kind of stuck to that. So I said, you know what? The community must know who is operating in their area for the Detroit Police Department. So I just started studying officers who patrol in our area, looking at their background, seeing what they were into. Well, sometime later, as part of my mentorship, one of the young men who I had known through mentoring youth in the community, he was on a ATV. He was riding in the street, which he had no business doing. He didn't have a license for it, but he was a teenager. He's a kid. He's like 14, 15 years old. He's riding on the ATV. Michigan State Police are chasing him. In the midst of it, an officer rolled his window down while chasing him, stuck his hand out with his taser and tased the young man while the young man was in actual motion on his ATV, was causing him to lose control of the ATV, hit another vehicle, and the young man lost his life. So that further fueled my activism, and me just being an advocate for the youth, and just being a watchman and a watchdog of the Detroit Police Department. So I've seen it a few times where there were officers that had been involved in lawsuits for violating the rights of citizens in our area. The city settled those lawsuits. The officers were named as defendants, and there was one particular instance in 2023 where an officer from the city of Warren, who was known notoriously for crossing boundaries into Detroit when things were slow. They know that in Detroit it's a lot busier, so they'll come down and kind of play with the borderline a little bit and come over into Detroit. This officer chased a four-wheeler into Detroit, not too far from where the other young man had lost his life. This officer, again, is one of those officers who have been named a defendant in lawsuits in the past, had misconducts. You can look them up on the YouTube. If you look up Warren Police, where they were sued by the ACLU for a man who was having a mental crisis. In his cell, they went in, tased him, and they kind of bulldozed him a little bit. So one of those same officers was the one who was on patrol that day. He was very rude, disrespectful, and overly aggressive to the point it became alarming and concerning to where I felt it was necessary for me to intervene. Um, his partners were very calm. They were understanding. They understood my concerns. However, the subject officer remained aggressive, disrespectful, and I responded in an inappropriate way by letting them know, had you put hands on him, I would have shot you. The prosecutor spent that quote. So of course this officer had to put hands on him because he ended up cuffing him and putting him in the car. So when I said put hands to him, it's sort of like a slang we got, like we play like, hey man, don't make me put hands to you. So I just basically said, hey, had you put hands on him, I would have shot you. It was very inappropriate, but my message was that, I was prepared to intervene and to take action to make
Still not a
sure that.
crime. Still not a crime. So it's a consequential statement. So, for example, and it starts with, if you do something legal to me, I will do something legal to you. So if I was to say, hey, Commissioner Moore, if you decide you want to punch me in the face, just know I'm knocking you out, or I'm going to do my best.
Right.
I'm not breaking any laws. I'm saying if you were to do something illegal, I would stand my ground as protected by law and I would defend myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very clear on the body camera footage that you say, if you would have done that to me,
Correct.
then I would have to you. Is it sometimes the nicest thing that we can say? Maybe not morally, but legally, you're in the right. You haven't violated any laws. And to see how aggressively they took you into custody was alarming, to say the least.
Yeah, they seen that I stood out, and it was an effort. Charging me was with the purpose of charging me is not only for a message to me as an individual, but to the culture as a whole. That in taking action to intervene, a situation, regardless of how dangerous it might be. Is to discourage the activists. It was an attack on the activists and the advocates for our youth. Also said something else along the lines that wasn't played in our media here in their smear campaign. I said, hey, had I been around when Ayanna Jones and when other people who had lost their life and never got justice, maybe it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I think that my audience, in fact, a lot of the people on YouTube who choose different news organizations from different streaming outlets, excuse me, do so because they know that the news is selling a product. I'm not selling a product. I'm selling myself, and the services are free when people tune in. There's no reason for me to spin something. I'm going to call it how I see it. Folks, as you can see from the footage aired earlier, we showed you what happened when one man who wanted to make a difference in his community took the word of a reporter, and that reporter used it to totally skew a situation and to almost make someone like Mr. Moore look both criminally negligent and dangerous. I think it's interesting to call somebody dangerous or to elude the fact that he might be dangerous. He doesn't have a gun. He has a badge. He does not have a taser. He's not LEO post certified. He's not on your streets kicking in doors.
Correct.
He's the guy responsible for handing out punishments, fair, unbiased punishments to those who would. Now, folks, I ask you at home, you can't just have one demographic of society. Those who are watching me know I'm a law-abiding citizen now. I used to make a lot of mistakes back in the day. I made poor decisions. Those poor decisions, that time I spent in prison, led me to be the man that I am today. The same can be said for Mr. Moore. He's asking for some very simple things: accountability, fair, non-racially motivated policing, and equity justice, equal interpretation and receiving of the law. Now, for those who are just back the blue, huge police supporters, no one's saying that Mr. Moore isn't a police supporter. He just doesn't like, am I right? You just don't like bad cops.
We had an officer here in the area, Cameron Richardson. He had a great reputation. When I study reputations, I take note of the ones who have a great reputation too. The citizens loved him. He had a great reputation. He lost his life after clocking out of work. Someone ran a light, hit his car. He lost his life as a result of the car accident. They had a memorial at the location where he had succumbed to his injuries. They had a memorial there, and I spent probably around close to $2,000 having art designs, a whole lit up billboard and platform built as a surprise for his family. I thought he was very deserving of it, and it was the least that I could do. And then just here, before the media did this chop job on me, I had spoke with the reporter and never made it to the story. I said, hey, there was a officer on the west side of Detroit who had conducted a traffic stop. The person who he conducted the traffic stop had a pit bull in the car. The pit bull was able to hop through the window, attack the officer. The officer fired multiple rounds. One of the rounds, the officer accidentally hit himself in the foot. A self-inflicted wound where he accidentally shot himself in the foot. He was taken to Sinai Grace Hospital here in Detroit, and I was the only police commissioner who got out of my bed at that time of night, went up there just to check on him, his family, as well as his partners, and just to let them know that, my heart is with them. I'm there to support them. And as a part of a gesture, as me being a new commissioner, because I want to show fairness. I don't want officers to just look and see me, holding the ones who engage in misconduct accountable, but I also want them to see me give respect and honor and promote the ones who are model police officers.
Folks, I wonder why that part didn't make it to the news story that we just showed you. The multiple news stories that we showed you. In fact, they've covered this story a total of 4 times on video and over 6 times in writing. I wonder why we're not hearing about that. When we do these types of character assassinations, we need to find a villain. And that villain needs to resemble Scar from The Lion King. He has to be big, bad, ferocious, someone who's really taking the good out of the community. But what he's doing is what we would expect from a police commissioner, someone who is fair, someone who appreciates those who are doing a good job, someone who would equally hold responsible and accountable those who would violate their oath to the community that elected you. When did this whole thing start to turn where then the police started coming after you?
It started turning about, I would say, 3 weeks to a month ago. There was an officer. And this one was on just by coincidence. I was in traffic. I guess I ran over something, so my tire, the PSIs on my tire started dropping down very low. And so I was trying to get to the nearest gas station. I was going at a slow pace. I had my hazard lights on. As I was approaching, probably about a few blocks from the gas station, there was a traffic stop that was ongoing. They had the emergency lights activated. The fire department pulled up. The EMS had pulled up, and it appeared as though that they were tending to a female citizen who was having some type of medical complication. Because I never know when the vehicle have to take off real fast or what the situation is, I didn't want to bypass the situation because I couldn't move at a speed fast enough, and just out of caution for perhaps slowing down an emergency vehicle when it decides to take off. I pulled aside, still my hazard lights on. I want to get out to look at my tire, but there are some cars that are coming, and because no officer is directing traffic, they're trying to maneuver around the emergency vehicles, which they're coming into my lane. So I have incoming traffic coming into my lane, which further interfered with me being able to get out of the vehicle to assess my tire. And then, like I said, not being able to proceed forward because of the situation. In the midst of this, the EMS is treating the woman. There are two officers out there. Some comments that I thought were probably inappropriate and was done out of wicked humor was made about the woman. So I'm observing it, really taking notes. And in the midst of it, there's almost a car accident with cars trying to bypass each other, some stopping, some trying to go around. They're confused on what to
I'm sorry.
do.
So just so I'm understanding this, noticeably, we have two separate possible safety concerns. The immediate person they're dealing with, you roll up and your tire's an issue. They don't have the time to take care of you or to place safety cones in the road or to properly direct traffic to maintain the safety of not just the person they're helping and you and the other drivers, but they do have time, it seems, to make fun of the very vulnerable person that's requiring their assistance. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, they were engaged in conversation that I took to be very inappropriate, and I'm not going to repeat those things. But they were no longer occupied with the woman. The woman is now in the EMS vehicle, being attended by the EMS, the paramedics. So they're just congregating in the street with one another. There's almost an accident. So when there's almost an accident, they take frustration with the citizens, so they come out very aggressive, gesture, flagging the hand real aggressive, like they're mad. And I'm explaining to one of the officers, the female officer on the scene, I said, hey, calm down. I said, don't take all of that. I said, they while you guys were over there doing whatever you were doing, no one's telling them what to do. They don't know, people don't know what to do. We're close by a light. There's oncoming traffic still coming. It's about to be a traffic jam. You should have, took control of the situation and directed the traffic. It's not their fault. So the woman said, well, what are you sitting here for? You need to move. You need to move. I said, you see my hazard lights on? And I stopped in the area that's designated for people to park if they're getting ready to go into this post office in which I'm sitting next to. So she backs off. As she's going, she's saying something. I said, I'm the police commissioner. She relays the information to her partner, a male officer he himself, later we found out, had a long history of misconduct, including being sued by a citizen in 2001 in the city of Detroit, settled that lawsuit in 2023 for $60,000, as well as his MCOs, his state license to be a police officer. It had been deactivated for a certain amount of time, a substantial amount of time, and he was still out conducting himself as a police officer, even without an active license, which is what I later found out. So she,
I think what he said, when the female police officer relays to him, he's the police commissioner. I believe what his response was, I don't care who he is. And that's indicative of his behavior. And what I find terribly concerning is if in front of the elected Detroit police commissioner, he's willing to behave like that. How poorly is he willing to behave when the top brass isn't there? What's he willing to do when there's no cameras or supervisors and it's just him alone with the suspect? How much trouble or danger are they in if they don't even care about what they do in front of the commissioner?
Yes, sir. So he tried to flag me off, so him flagging me off, I said, well, I can creep now. They have no excuse to say I'm holding up the emergency vehicles because he just told me to leave. So because of his conduct and because of what had taken place and the concerning comments that were made, I took a picture because I didn't know the officer name at that time, so I would be able to identify him when I went into the station to make a complaint. So as I took a picture, in the midst of me taking photographs, he seen me take the photographs. So as I took off, he got in his vehicle and turned his emergency lights off, then did a U in traffic without his emergency lights in an attempt to get behind me. I was able, because I was just like a block or two from the gas station, I was able to get into the gas station, pull by the air pump, and as I got out, I noticed his car slowing down. He was giving me a hard stare, a very aggressive stare. So I looked at him and I said, I don't know what you're staring like this for. You're being unprofessional, and I'm getting ready to go make a complaint on you. He told me, you're not going to do nothing. You're not going to do nothing, boy. And so when he called me a boy, that kind of like, I looked at my tire. I said, okay, I need some air, but I'm not in that dire need of air. I said, I'm about to go make this complaint now. So I got in
What do
my
you
car.
think he meant?
Mhm.
Do you think he looked at you and because you were far away, he thought you were a young child, so he called you like a little boy? What do you think he
There's
meant
no
by
way
that?
that you thought that I was a young child when in fact your partner told you I addressed her as the police commissioner. So you know that there's no kid that's on the board of police commissioners. So I'm smart enough to realize that.
So what do you think he meant by it? Do you think that was a racial connotation?
I took it to be that. I took it to be that. I don't know what's in his heart. No man knows the heart but God. But either way, the fact that he called me boy was an attempt to degrade me, disrespect me, belittle me, and undermine who I was. So regardless if it was racial or not, I'm not gonna put that on him because I don't know for a fact, but it appeared to me to be so.
You know, you're out there doing the Lord's work. You're engaging with the citizens, and the political temperature. It's in your favor. It's behind you. People are starting to get behind you. Your cause is really spreading, and it's pretty clear that you're not one of those buy-off candidates where you're gonna just take free speeding ticket removals and you're gonna find in favor of every officer. You're gonna give a real by the book job.
Yes, sir. I made it clear coming through the door. I said, I'm not taking any complimentary tickets to any sports events, food vouchers, none of that. I'm not asking for any favors. I don't want any favors. Anything that I want, I'll pay for it. We had got sworn in officially, but then they had a ceremonial swearing in at a big extravagant theater in downtown Detroit, and I refused to attend it due to the fact I said, hey, we were already sworn in. The money that was used to get this, we could have used that. We have lots of shelters that you see that are in desolate conditions that we can put money into, we can invest back into the community. So I'm just not in agreements with this ceremony, and so I'm not going to attend it because to attend it would be me, agreeing with the fact, that they're having it. So I didn't do it. So I'm not that type of person. I'm here to do a job, and this is a position here. We're not paid. This is an elected position, but is a volunteer position. So you do not get a salary for this.
I don't care that you have a criminal background. I think it's great that you do. It gives you a more diverse way to look at things. You've seen both sides of law, the good and the bad. I'm sure you've come into contact with both good and very bad cops, not in your career, but in your lifetime. It gives you a way to look at things where you're not blinded. Oh, I'm just pro cop and I love cop. You can look at things and say, doesn't matter who's pro, who's for. I'm going to look at the situation. I'm going to look at the circumstances. I'm going to look at the victims and the officers. I'm going to take the facts into account, solely the facts, and make a determination based on that. And because he was willing to be impartial, they tried to retry him on a case from 5 years ago, just to get him to back down from his current position, and you were originally, I think, considering resigning, and then where do we stand now?
I'm still on the Board of Police Commissioners. I will be finishing my term. The community was very upset. It was 5 candidates, and I won 72% of the votes, myself alone. So these people, they came out, they voted for me, they believed in me, and it would have been doing them a disservice for me to resign. Even under the pressure, I recognized what was going on, and I was going to resign, hoping that things might cool down. Um, there was a case, as you said, in 2021 that I had got, for carrying a firearm. I didn't have legal grounds to carry it. I was not supposed to be carrying a firearm, and yet I was carrying that firearm. So I was arrested. I was charged. I showed up to court as I was ordered to do, to go through the judicial process. Detroit Police Department did not show up. The case was tossed. Never heard anything else about it until the pressure was being put on me to resign, and I stated I wasn't going to resign. I had reconsidered, and I'm going to stay on the board. And next thing I know, the media starts to contact the prosecutor saying, hey, why didn't you guys follow up on this? And I believe they kind of put some pressure on the prosecutor and put him on the spot. And so they requested that the Detroit Police Department go ahead and resubmit his warrant. And an officer from the Detroit Police Department did attempt to send a warrant to get me recharged and prosecuted for the 2021 case.
Timing seems awfully coincidental that this is all happening when you're holding cops accountable and you're not backing down. You didn't back down. The news is that they're not going to be able to pursue that case. So congratulations to you. More so, I'm just blown away by your fervor and your dedication to your community. For all intents, peril to you. You keep saying, despite what they could do to me, I'm not going to let down the voting public, the community I serve, that put me here for a reason. Like I said originally, I've met a lot of police officers that actually have criminal records. One had a very extensive criminal record. We did a story on him, and cops didn't have a problem with him. But they have a problem with you because you're willing to just not give them a free ride and commit crimes carte blanche. Are you going to continue your mission of police accountability to give back some justice to your community?
I'm going to continue my mission of complete police accountability as well as transparency for disclosures, not keeping the people in the dark. Part of what I did is not only make a complaint and get it filed on record, the officer's inappropriate behavior, but as well as I took the photograph and my experience with him and I posted it to social media, and it got some traction. The reason why I did that is because when a lot of officers engage in misconduct and they're found guilty of that misconduct, or they're sued, they're eventually, because of their union protections, they're eventually put back in the community. So there's nothing we can do to stop them from being put back in the community. So what we do instead is we bring awareness to their presence in the community by letting the people know, hey, there is a guy who was back out on the street. This is what he did inside the community. So be aware, so
I like it. It's kind of like a sex offenders list, but for bad police officers.
Yes.
And I want you to think of it this way, folks, because the people who are against Commissioner Moore are going to say, oh, this is disruptive, antagonistic behavior. He's out taking pictures of cops. They're putting their life on the line. If Commissioner Moore was out there taking pictures of Commissioner Morris was out there taking pictures of sex offenders that the police had missed and put them up on the wall, you guys would have no problem with it. But because he's taking pictures of police officers, I absolutely love this idea. And I will work with you with one of my designers. We'll get a free website going for you. We'll help you build the website. So, and we'll set it up as a way so members of the community can safely take pictures of law enforcement, send them to you with whatever their stories are, and you can kind of delegate where those pictures go and how they're spread so you can maintain a little bit of a database. I think that's a great way to get the community involved.
Yes, I agree, and I would appreciate that. I'm very big on awareness. I just want the community to be safe, and we just don't need another situation where we have another Ayanna Jones or another George Floyd or anything like that. We just don't need that here. And if we're going to build the relationship between the community and our law enforcement, to do that first you have to tear down the wall of distrust. And so people are going to trust you when you're being forthcoming. It's like me when I was running for office to be the police commissioner, and my pamphlets and brochures, I discussed my upbringing. Gave full disclosure, and I was transparent about the bad decisions that I made in my younger years, and that when I was locked up, guess what? I was held accountable, and I took responsibility and I owned it. And that's exactly what I expect from our Detroit Police Department to do the same.
I think that that is a noble quest, and I think that it's someone that any person from Detroit should want for themselves and should expect from their public servants. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a wall that is built, and with each disaster that happens, with each life lost, with every George Floyd, that gap widens. What this gentleman is doing here is he's trying to lessen that gap. He's trying to cross a very big bridge with a very small step, and he cannot do it alone. And I'm sure he'd like to do it with the citizens and the police. I'm hoping that the police officers watching this understand that you don't have to make an enemy out of someone who's not a villain. You don't have to create a villain for a story that doesn't yet exist. You have an American that, against all odds, got to a position that he probably never thought he would get to, and he's using his past not just to make the community safer, but officers, to make your job safer. Every relationship he repairs in the community, he's making it a little bit safer for you to go out there. I've spoken to numbers of police who tell me sometimes they're afraid to even, walk out. I recently had a conversation with a Detroit police officer just a couple months ago as I was filming a traffic stop, and this guy was afraid of his own shadow. And I explained to him that his fear of no threat shouldn't put my life in danger. And I was probably a lot more safer because of the skin I was in. I would like to thank you for your work. We're going to be continuing to cover your story and to give updates. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like for you to support this man as much as you can. There are not enough people out there that are willing to stand up to a machine, stare it down, and say, I won't be deterred. I won't be scared away. I won't be bought. I won't be paid for. My price is to God. Yes. I don't know how you do it and how you stay so calm and how you maintain the composure that you maintain. Have you had any cases come in front of you yet from a police officer since you've been on?
I've had a lot of complaints from citizens. I get those just about every day. I would say that the officer on the traffic stop with the EMS has probably about 50 to 60% of those complaints were from that officer. I've dealt with cases because of the union contracts that are in effect with the city of Detroit. I can't go into the details, but I see them quite a bit. And we definitely need to tighten up on officers obeying the policy. What I'm seeing as a common thing is that when citizens make complaints against officers and our OCI, Office of Chief Investigator, goes to investigate these complaints, a lot of times we're having difficulties being able to sustain these complaints to see if there's merit there because officers are either having a delay in activating their body camera footage, not turn it on at all, or turn it off too early. So that is a comment. That violation is very common, and I think we need to look into figuring out a way to stiffen the penalties for that because that interferes with us providing oversight and being able to assess their conduct while they're out in the community.
It's interesting that you bring that up. We often see body cam footage where something might seem a little bit fishy. Officers mute the audio to their body cam, and only a fly on the wall could know what was said. And my imagination normally leads me to believe that not the best of intentions are being discussed with the muted audio. What do you think would be a good consequence or a good penalty in general, not necessarily with the Detroit police, for officers who would alter or mute their body cam during an active investigation or interaction with a citizen?
It would. I would base it upon how egregious the situation is that had taken place, and so the more egregious it is, the more valuable that footage would be. So we would enhance it. But if you want to be on the road and work in the streets and not in the jail, you have to realize that we have to be able to have oversight over what you're doing in the streets, and your body camera enables us to do that. If you don't want to use it, if you don't want to activate it, then you shouldn't be on the streets. And so your penalty should be removing you from the streets for a while.
Someone brought up to me once where commissioners or civil oversight boards, etc., someone in your position, at any time could have live feed access to an officer's body camera, or that the access to that body camera be streamed with a delay to, for example, the department's YouTube channel. The delay gives the officers the ability to remove people's personally identifying information, phone numbers, social security numbers. What do you think about a more open process where at any point in time, you don't have to worry about data being saved to a cloud? You can just in real time view what's happening with that officer.
Well, we have a system sort of similar to that, which we call it the Green Light Project. These are cameras that are streamed live in various businesses throughout the city of Detroit, where we have a real-time crime center and they're able to monitor these things. The issue would be the additional manpower and systems that has to be set in place because you have so many hundreds of officers that are engaging with the public at any given time. And so being able to monitor those live and watch those in real time, all of them, would be very difficult. But if they're, like I said, utilizing them like they are taught and instructed to do, even if we can't watch it live, we are supposed to be able to go back to that day and time and pull up the footage and review the footage.
It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, right? Because if my boss tells me to do something, I'm just going to do it, especially if it's like it's a policy, it's a rule. Like, you can't smoke cigarettes inside the building. First of all, it's illegal. And secondly, it's our policy. Well, I'm dealing with customers. I'm not going to do that. That's the rule. If I break the rule, there's going to be a consequence. I don't understand, especially since it is the policy and procedure for the Detroit Police Department to not mute or alter your body cams. I don't understand why these officers do it at the rapid rate that they do it. It's almost like they know that it's against the rules. They know it's against policy, but they're going to do it anyways to hide whatever it is they're doing. Is it because they know that there's going to be no consequence that enables them to do it so easily?
They simply just don't care. They don't care. It's not looked at as though either the delay the delay activation or the non-activation of the camera is higher on the misconduct scale, to where there's a major penalty. It'll probably be just a warning, or someone just saying, hey, just make sure that you turn your body camera on. So there's really no consequence. They're really not being held accountable as they should be. And so, without, you cannot change what you will not confront. And it's a problem that we need to look into, and we need to look into changing the penalties for such a violation of policy.
I mean, it's really helpful to roll from the moment that you stop your car or that you engage, because citizens know what body cams look like now. We've been exposed to them enough. We know that the green light means it's running. Like, we know what happens if a body cam's recording. So if we see that a police officer's body camera isn't rolling, that makes it even easier for us as a citizen to make a false allegation against that officer, an allegation that could have been put to rest pretty quickly or not made to begin with had they activated their body cam and adhered to Detroit's policy regarding the body-worn camera. I'm not understanding why some police officers are so resistant to something that really helps them and keeps them safe as much as it does the community.
Yes. And part of bringing awareness, and what I would like to do, in setting up that website, is not only to aware the people of the officers that are in the community and what's taking place in the department, but also to aware them of things that they need to do to protect themselves, to add that extra safety precaution in the event that the officers aren't doing what they're supposed to do, like activating their cameras. Like, one thing that you should do upon contact with an officer, say, hey, is your body camera on? You should ask them, is therefore, sometimes what an officer could do is they'll say, well, it was the heat of the moment, it looked like it was urgent, and I jumped out and I just forgot to activate my camera. So, you have officers that will use that as a defense. And that is why the community have to be smart enough and aware enough to know that the officers aren't following this policy. So you have to say, hey, sir, is your body camera on? Have you turned your body camera on? And that right there would eliminate them being able to use that as a reason for the policy violation. So we have to aware the people, and we have to educate the people as well. And it's sad, because where we should be educating them and awareing them how to protect themselves against other people in the community, you have to aware them on how to protect themselves against their own police officers.
It's interesting, folks, as we travel this journey and we see the progressions. It wasn't long ago that I was in Philadelphia, Mississippi, working on a case that had gone cold over 60 years ago, when 3 civil rights activists disappeared in the small town of Philadelphia. Their bodies were later discovered by a team of dedicated FBI agents, and a trial was underway to charge the local Ku Klux Klan for the torture of for these people. This man was brought to court in 2006 again. Ultimately, he was convicted, and we got some new information that brought us from Boston all the way to Mississippi. And we sat down and spoke to an eyewitness that the FBI never knew even existed. And he explained to us how he watched, scared for his life, grown men beat and castrate a grown man in the middle of the road simply because of the color of his skin. The man who did this was an on-duty police officer. We were able to go to lunch and discuss these huge things that we had found, these huge breaks in the largest civil rights murder case in American history, aside from Dr. Martin Luther King. And as we're discussing what happens, the person behind us says, oh, I know that guy you're doing a story on. He's my grandfather. We just happened to be sitting down in front of the grandchildren to the very person who we'd been investigating. We went to her house, we talked, and it gave me strange bird's eye view into the eyes and brain of pure evil. And the reason I bring this in is because I appreciated the racists of the 50s because I knew who they were. They had big pointy white hats. They were burning crosses on your lawn. I knew who those racists were. Now, the same type of racist will hide behind a smile, and then they'll break in your home and execute you in the back of your head and walk away without any justice. Times have changed, but people haven't so much. You need to be careful out there. You never know which cop is having a bad day or how far that bad day will push him. This commissioner is giving sound and safe advice. Make sure the officer can see your hands. Make sure to film the interaction. Tell them that it's being streamed live, even if it isn't, because if they think that it's going to a live broadcast audience, they're much less likely to hurt you. Make sure that if you're in an altercation with police, to have 911 on the phone so someone can tell your story if you can't. It's a sad day where we need to discuss how to remain safe with someone whose job it is to keep us safe. But these are the realities of today. But just know and feel safer that when that cop makes that mistake, when he hurts somebody, when he takes the law into his own hands, and when he makes a decision that he can't reverse, he's going to go eventually in front of this man. And despite what the Detroit Police Department would do, or the attempts the mainstream media would try, he will not be deterred. Because unlike some of these police officers, he's far from self-centered. He's community-minded. And the one thing you can't take out of an activist is their heart and their search for what is right. I'd like to thank you for your time here with us today.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you for the work that you're doing in your community. As I'm sure you know, it's a dangerous job and the police can be a powerful enemy. Knowing you choose to do it anyways, I think gives us all a little bit of hope.
I appreciate you having me for Josh.
Of course. Ladies and gentlemen, if you check the description of this video and the pinned comments, you're going to be seeing social media links. I suggest that you go to these links, you search them, you follow them. Make sure you stay up to date. Not only are you going to know what's happening in your neck of the woods if you're in the Detroit area, or if you're just a concerned citizen from another part of the country, this man is going to keep you up to date with everything that's going on. I'm going to let you know as soon as I have any more updates, and we're all going to work together on this website to make sure that you people at home, when you're watching this video, are saying, well, you know what, Josh, I live in Wayne County. I just moved to Detroit, and I didn't know any of this stuff was going on. Let me know how it works. We're going to make sure we get this thing going within the next 2 weeks. So from the push of a button on your phone, you can go to this website and do whatever you need, and this information will go directly to the commissioner who is in charge of the oversight of these police officers. Is there anything else that you'd like the people of Detroit or the people of America to know that are watching this?
For far too long, the people have had issues, and candidates have came out to the communities, knocked at their doors, made them promises that they would address these issues and that they would work to fix these issues. And they have sold the people out. They have given in to political pressures and outside influences. And when I ran for office, my campaign slogan was very simple. It was the one you can depend on. I strive to be an elected official who you can depend on, you can trust. You know that I will not sell out. Um, I will work to build a police department that you can trust as well. Right now, I myself, being the commissioner, do not fully trust our police department. So I'm going to fight every day to take whatever issues you have. I will investigate those. I will, if the officer is found to be at fault, we will hold them accountable. We will also make your neighbors aware as to what had taken place, so that they're able to protect themselves. So, I'm a fighter. I'm here, and even as you've seen with the threats of being prosecuted, I'm facing two for possession of the gun, one for how I was carrying. I was looking at multiple years, and to evade that would have been to resign. But before the prosecutor tossed it out, or I knew it was going to be fully tossed, I decided I was going to hang in there and I was going to fight. So, I'm a fighter, and I'm a ride. I'm a ride with you guys. I'm a ride with you guys. I'm definitely for the people.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to take notice of your community. Look into what civil oversight looks like with police officers. Get involved in the neighborhoods near you. Simply go to your city's name and then type in excessive force after it on Google. Commissioner Morris brings up a great point here. Get to know the officers in your community, because if you know that one officer is a little bit more hot-headed than the other one, you know who to avoid, when to avoid, and when you may be in possible danger. The people of Detroit are lucky to have you, Commissioner. And I think that there's a lot of people that are going to be watching this stream. Many of my 250,000 plus subscribers are going to be saying, I wish I had a Commissioner Moore in my police department. I would feel more safe. I know that police would be held accountable. This is something that everyone searches for, is accountability, whether it is from police or your barber that gave you a bad lineup, folks. What's important is to know that there's someone that is willing to fight for you without any ulterior motives. And at risk to his own freedom, he was willing to spend however long he would get in prison just so he could hold at least one more cop accountable, to keep one bad cop off the street. It's been a pleasure to have you here today. Ladies and gentlemen, he's been Commissioner Morris. I've been AFA. And until next time, that's the reason I stopped you today.
Thank you.